Hi, welcome to Danny After Dark. If you're new here, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss a notification or a new episode. Tonight, I'll be featuring the case of Andrew Urdiales. This case was suggested by friend of the show, Paul Rowland. So thank you, Paul Rowland, for the case recommendation. Let's go ahead and find out more. Let's go ahead and dive on in. Andrew Urdiales was born on June 4th, 1964. He grew up and lived in Chicago, Illinois, with both of his parents. He went to Thorndike High School in Dalton, Illinois, and was described by those who knew him as an average student. He also had acquired the title social outcast, even though he had a few friends. He went on to graduate high school in 1982. After high school, he decided to join the Marines. It is in the Marines where he acquired the nickname Corporal Urinalysis. Yes, you heard that right, Corporal Urinalysis. He was stationed in Southern California. He joined the Marines because he, quote, had fantasies of learning to defend himself and to destroy, not out, patriotism, end quote. He was promoted several times while serving in the military, and he even made it to corporal. At this point, however, his men refused to take orders from him, so he was eventually demoted. It was also at this time that he met and fell in love. He fell in love, however, with a 15-year-old girl and ended up getting her pregnant. Well, he was afraid of her parents, and he was afraid of any military discipline that would come from this. So they decided that she would have an abortion. He would later say of this, quote, I loved her and still love her, but the law in the state of California and the righteous in the Marine Corps might not see it that way, end quote. Well, Andrew's time was now complete in the Marines, and he was given an honorable discharge. So at this point, April 1996, he now returned to the Chicago area permanently and became a security guard. At this time, he ended up seeking psychiatric help from a Chicago Veterans Hospital. April 12, 1996, a Veterans Hospital psychologist urged him to, quote, become more open about expressing his anger, end quote. Just 2 days later, Andrew would kill. April 14th, 1996, he killed Lori Ulacki. He ended up disposing of her body in Wolf Lake. July 13th, 1996, Andrew ran into Cassandra Coram at a bar. The two left together and rode in his pickup truck to Wolf Lake and ended up having sex. Andrew stated that Cassandra said something that made him mad, so he started to hit her in the face with his fist and open hand. She started to panic, and he took out his handcuffs and forced them on her. He handcuffed her hands behind her back. He then proceeded to tear all of her clothes off and taped her mouth shut with duct tape. He then drove them south on Interstate 55. When he took an exit, he shut off all the lights in his truck, removed the handcuffs, and removed the duct tape. While Cassandra was still naked, and he ordered her out of the truck. Cassandra walked to the back of the truck and turned to face Andrew. She started to say something, but was stopped when Andrew shot her in the face. He said he was still angry with her for fighting with him, so he then got his knife and started to stab her. The knife didn't end up getting that much blood on it after, so Andrew put it back in the truck. He then put Cassandra's body in the truck as well and disposed of her by dropping her into the Vermilion River off of a bridge. Cassandra was later reported missing. Andrew even helped her friends pass out missing person posters. Now, August 2nd, 1996, Andrew picked up a woman named Lynn Huber. He had seen her walking with a plastic garbage bag that was full of clothes and asked her if she needed a ride. She accepted. So they rode together in Andrew's pickup truck. Andrew stated that an argument occurred, and he grabbed her by her hair and pushed her to the ground. He then proceeded to shoot her several times. However, only one of the bullets actually ended up striking her. He then put her in his truck and drove south. When he got to Wolf Lake, Andrew took all of her clothes off and proceeded to stab her multiple times before he ended up pushing her into the water. The clothes that she had been wearing, he ended up throwing away in a nearby dumpster. And that garbage bag that she was carrying that was full of clothes, he dropped it off at the Salvation Army. Andrew, after this night's spence, went home and went to sleep. November 14th, 1996. Andrew was stopped by police. He was parked outside of a known drug dealer's house and had in the car with him a well-known prostitute. Officers described Andrew's demeanor at first as, quote, cooperative, average, end quote. Andrew explained to the police officers that he had served in the Marines. Well, one of the officers spotted a revolver in Andrew's truck and yelled, quote, gun, end quote, in a loud, stern voice. The other officer grabbed the gun and discovered it was fully loaded. Andrew did not have the permit required to possess the gun, so he was arrested and the gun was confiscated. April 1st, 1997. Police responded to a complaint about a man and a woman fighting at an American Inn. When they arrived, Andrew was there and complained to the officer of a theft involving Patricia Kelly. Patricia was a well-known prostitute in the area. Well, Patricia also made a statement to the police. She said of Andrew, quote, this guy's kind of kinky. He wants to take me in the back of his pickup truck, handcuff me, and engage in anal sex, end quote. Well, the officer returned to the police station at the end of his shift, and he conducted a computer search of the city's records on Andrew. Something wasn't quite sitting well with him. The officer immediately made the connection. Sex, bondage, link. April 7th, 1997. Police confirmed Andrew's gun was the same gun used to kill all of the other women. April 22nd, 1997. Police set up surveillance in an alley that was about a half block from Andrew's parents' home. When Andrew left on the way to his job, police approached him and they told him that they were interested in the November 1996 case in which Andrew's .38 caliber revolver was seized. Well, Andrew said the case had been resolved, but he agreed to come to the Chicago police headquarters and answer any questions. When he arrived, at first, Andrew started to say he did not recognize any of the photos of any of the victims. When asked where he got his revolver, Andrew told police he bought it in Calumet City for $300 about 5 years earlier. He also said that he maintained control of it since he had it. Well, the detectives told Andrew the bullets used in all 3 murders were traced specifically to his gun that the security officer and police had seized. So what did Andrew do? He loosened his tie and he started to untie his shoelaces and then said, quote, "I guess I'm not going to be going to work today," end quote. During Andrew's trial, family members and a doctor testified that mental illness ran rampant on both sides of his family. In addition, he had been physically and emotionally abused by his parents, sexually abused by his sister, sexually abused by a male cousin, and that he'd been picked on in high school and then later picked on in the service. They also stated that Andrew suffered from mild bipolar disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, also known as PTSD, and, quote, deficits, end quote, of brain activity that affect his judgment. The prosecution, however, stood for none of that. They maintained that Andrew instead suffered from Tourette's syndrome and an unspecified personality disorder that impairs his relationships. The prosecution also described Andrew as, quote, savage, predatory, cunning killer, end quote, and that he was caught by a combination of bad luck and good police work. Famous psychiatrist Dr. Park Dietz said that Andrew is simply a sexually sadist who hates women. September 3rd, 2002. Andrew was convicted in the murders of Lori Ulaki and Lynn Huber and was given the death penalty. However, it was commuted by Governor Ryan along with all other death row sentences shortly after the ruling. Now, April 2004, Andrew was tried and convicted in Pontiac City County, Illinois, for the murder of Cassandra Coram. For that, he was given the death penalty. February 2007, Andrew went back to death row, now because of a ruling by the Illinois Supreme Court. Well, he had appealed his death sentence in the case of Cassandra Coram. He appealed, stating that the trial judge was wrong to reject his plea of guilty but mentally ill. However, when his case got to the Supreme Court, they found that the judge did nothing wrong when he concluded that Andrew was not mentally ill. The court noted the defense witnesses didn't agree on what illness Andrew supposedly suffered from, and that his crime involved careful planning. Now, 2018, in Southern California, Andrew was tried in the murders of Robin Bramley, who was stabbed 41 times while leaving a jazz piano concert in 1986. He was also tried for Julie McGee, Marianne Wells, and 20-year-old Tammy Irwin, all of whom were shot, and Denise Manny, who was tied up, sexually assaulted, and stabbed to death. Andrew told authorities that he killed these women because he believed them to be prostitutes and he believed he was helping them. The defense testified that he fell down the stairs as an infant while in the arms of his sister, and that may have resulted in brain damage. Well, the prosecution disputed that completely, and they said he, quote, has a reduced mental capacity, end quote, and it was a sexual sadist who hates women, but he is not insane. October 5th, 2018, Andrew was sentenced to death for these 5 murders. Now, November 2nd, 2018, Andrew was found in his cell unresponsive during a security check. it ended up being determined that he had committed suicide. And that is the case of Andrew Urdiales. Thank you for joining me for an episode of Danny After Dark. And thank you again to Paul Rowland for the case recommendation. Do you have any questions or comments about this case? Leave it down below. Let's be interactive. Do you have a case recommendation that you would like me to cover? Well, leave it down below, and you may see it featured in an upcoming episode. Until next time, remember, we don't live in darkness. Darkness lives in us.